Good morning to one and all. This is Dr. Surekha. And on behalf of entire team, let me welcome you all to this National Science Day program on electric and sustainable mobility. This program is organized jointly by Pune Knowledge Cluster, PES-IAS chapter of IEEE Pune section, and PES India Chapters Council. Now, we all are aware of Sustainable Development Goal. We all are aware of our commitments to our Mother Earth. We all are aware of our adaptability towards green technology. So in the context of this adaptation and transformation, which is going on at various segments of society, we thought to pick up this particular theme of electric and sustainable mobility. So in this today's event, we are going to have a panel discussion where we have panelists as Dr. Rahul Walawalkar, founder and president of Alliance, and who is president and MD of Customized Energy Solutions Limited. We have another panelist today, Dr. Sushil Ramdasi, who is deputy director, Powertrain Engineering Laboratory of ARAI. And our third panelist, Mr. Manoj Daniel, he is deputy general manager of Maha-Metro Rail Corporation Limited, Pune. So we have these esteemed panelists today to share with us their views and experiences regarding sustainable mobility, electric mobility. And this panel will be moderated by Mrs. Rashmi Urdhwareshe, who is senior advisor to Pune Knowledge Cluster, where she got retired from ARAI in the position of director. So before moving ahead and formally starting with this event, I request Dr. Kimbhavi, who is ex-director of IUCA and principal investigator of Pune Knowledge Cluster, to share his views on this particular event. Over to you, Dr. Kimbhavi, sir.
Yeah, so good morning and namaskar, everyone. I'm very happy on behalf of the Pune Knowledge Cluster to welcome you to this event, which the PKC is arranging jointly with IEEE. The aim is to celebrate Science Day. This is what we are doing for this occasion. And let me tell you very briefly about what a Science Day is all about. So the National Science Day is celebrated in India on 28th of February each year to mark the discovery of the Raman effect by the physicist Sir C.V. Raman. This has been an extremely important discovery in the early days of quantum mechanics, and it has manifold applications. So it was decided to celebrate a Science Day on the day of the discovery. And the first celebration was on the 20th of February, 1987. The discovery of the effect itself was on 28th of February, 1928. That's a nice coincidental number. Okay, then the aim is celebrating it is to spread a message about the importance of science used in the daily life of people. But of course, it has grown beyond this modest idea, and it is celebrated all over the country. And Pune, in particular, is a city where it is celebrated with great enthusiasm and depth. So all the institutes here and bodies like ours, and then the colleges, universities, they all have an open house, invite people to come and visit them, and they have a number of events. In Ayuka, for example, where I come from, the 10,000-12,000 people come every year. Unfortunately, the last 2 years, that has not been possible. This year also, it has not been possible to receive people from outside, but everything is going on as usual, all video. Now, an interesting fact is that each year there is a designated theme, and for 2022, there is this year, and formally the Science Day is on Monday. The theme is Integrated Approach in Science and Technology for a Sustainable Future. And therefore, our topic for today, which is electric and sustainable mobility, is perfectly in harmony with the theme for this year. I mean, to be honest, I had not known that this was the theme. I discovered it only this morning. And so it is a very good coincidence that what we are planning to do today fits so closely with the theme. So that is all I got to say, and we look forward to a series of nice lectures by experts and a discussion. The lectures themselves will be short, but there'll be discussions, and I hope it will be very participatory. And I also hope that we can have a similar program next year, which will be face to face, but which will also be broadcast to the whole country. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Kimbavi, for this overview. Let me move ahead with introducing Mrs. Rashmi Urdhwareshe. Mrs. Rashmi holds master degree in ENTC, and even she has got certification in other different professional organizations. Her experience and expertise mainly resides in vehicular safety, e-mobility, alternate fuels, green technologies, quality systems, business excellence, etc. She retired as director of ARAI in June 2020, and now she's a part of Pune Knowledge Cluster as senior advisor. She's also a president of SAE India. Madam is a co-author of book on total quality management. She's a recipient of several awards for her contribution towards women empowerment, corporate leadership, engineering excellence, her contribution in the area of e-mobility, business excellence, quality excellence, and many more. She's honored with Nari Shakti Puraskar in year 2019 at the hands of Honorable President of India. So we are very happy to have you, Mrs. Rashmi, today to moderate this panel. So over to you, Mrs. Rashmi, to kindly conduct and moderate the panel.
Thank you, Dr. Sureka, for that introduction. Good morning, everybody, and my best wishes to all of you on the forthcoming Science Day, which will be celebrated on 28th is the day, as Dr. Ajit mentioned, but we celebrate it all across the week. We have multiple functions today. Some of our colleagues were there basically to ensure that the environment is also protected. We had a function related to environmental restoration through tree plantation and such. My special welcome to the esteemed panelists. I have great privilege to work with all of them independently in some capacity or the other. I have worked with Rahul on energy storage related discussions. I've worked with Manoj Kumarji related to Maha-Metro and the project in Pune, and with Sushil Ramdasi, of course, a long association of 28 years at ARAI. I would like to first of all start with the thanks to PKC, IEEE and PICC for choosing a very relevant theme and bringing out an illustrious panel to all of you. The subject of electric and sustainable mobility is really close to my heart. And I have done my work at ARAI and even at the national and international level. And therefore, I would be very happy to moderate this panel with three eminent speakers, and absolutely a delight to welcome Dr. Rahul Walawalkar, who brings in wonderful perspective on energy storage. Dr. Sushil Ramdasi brings in sustainable technology development perspective, and Mr. Manoj Kumar in deploying the technology for mass transportation. So three experts will in next hour or so will present to us three different perspectives, and let us look at the future with that prism of three perspectives. Electric mobility and sustainable mobility is something which has been talked about at length. There are multiple dimensions, and 3 or 4 of those dimensions we will try to cover in this panel today. So let me start with requesting the three panelists to present their perspectives. one by one. And the first presentation, I would invite Dr. Rahul Walawalkar, and I would like to introduce him. He's the President and Managing Director at Customized Energy Solutions India. He is also India Energy Storage Alliance's president and in fact founder and the president. He continues to be the president. He has been contributing to at the national level as well as international level in the field of energy storage. Dr. Rahul is also on the advisory role to important national committees, and to name a few of his contributions, I would like to highlight his contribution in National Energy Storage Mission, ELI scheme of Government of India, then Advanced Chemistry Battery Manufacturing Program of NITI Aayog, and so on. Under Rahul's leadership, CS has achieved numerous awards at national and global levels. He is himself a recipient of Global Young Entrepreneur Excellence Award in the area of energy storage and renewable energy, and many, many more awards to his credit, and his contribution to energy distribution, storage, and many relevant topics is what we look forward to his presentation today. Dr. Rahul holds a PhD in Engineering and Public Policy from Carnegie Mellon University and Masters in Energy Management from New York IT. He is holding bachelor's degree from our own Walchand College of Engineering. With that introduction, it's my proud privilege to welcome Rahul to present his view on energy and the electric mobility sector. Rahul, I request you to present for say about 15 minutes, and perhaps we can then cover other points during discussion. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rashmi, and also thank you very much, Dr. Surekha, for organizing this event and inviting me for this important panel. So without further delay, as Dr. Rashmi introduced, I'm President and founder of India Energy Storage Alliance, as well as President and Managing Director for Customized Energy Solutions in India. CS is a global company headquartered in US in Philadelphia, and we are into consulting and services where we manage more than 13 gigawatt of assets, as well as more than 1500 megawatt hour of energy storage asset, which also includes certain EV fleets. So I'll try to share some of the insights based on the work which as a CES we have done globally. And India Energy Storage Alliance, in fact, this year IESA is celebrating 10th year anniversary. So IESA was founded in 2012 to create awareness about advanced energy storage and e-mobility technologies in India. And over the years, we have evolved. And in 2016, we set up a mission to make India a global hub for R&D and manufacturing of advanced energy storage and EV technologies. And as part of that, as Dr. Rashmi mentioned, I have been fortunate to get an opportunity to contribute to various national and international policy activities by gathering inputs from more than 160 stakeholders who are active part of India Energy Storage Alliance, including ARAI. So when we talk about EVs, again, many times I think batteries are seen as a limiting factor for the growth of the EVs. In fact, this is not a new challenge. What you're seeing on the screen is a cover page of 1911 Scientific American magazine featuring Thomas Edison, who was very passionate about electric vehicles, and he had actually a joint venture company with Henry Ford for developing nickel ion batteries for electric vehicles. And if you see the right-hand side image, which talks about 1,000-mile endurance run, it was not meant as a single charge 1,000-mile run. It was that time basically the technology was at a stage where they were looking at 1,000 miles as a lifetime usage from the batteries for electric vehicles. Obviously, I think what happened with the expansion of the national highway systems as well as the mass production of Model T, unfortunately, the gap between the gasoline cars as well as EVs kept on widening. And ultimately, I think after 1920s, EVs ended up getting almost vanishing from the road. And then it took almost the 1990s before again with EV1 program, California started looking at electric vehicles again. And then truly maybe with models like Tesla, with Toyota Prius and others with hybrid vehicles coming in early 2000s, I think EV has again started seeing a resurgence. Now, as part of this, one of the key area for improvement has been the battery. And again, a lot of time the focus comes on the cost of the batteries, because if you look at back in 2010, the lithium-ion batteries, which are mainly used for electric vehicles today, they were costing more than almost $1,000 per kilowatt hour at the cell level price. Now that price has come down to almost around $120 per kilowatt hour as of 2020. And now again, right now, because of certain supply demand crunch, the price has slightly gone up. But for last 10 years, between 2010 to 2020, we have witnessed almost 10x price reduction for the batteries, which are used for both EV and stationary storage. There are not just single improvement in terms of lithium-ion batteries. Within lithium-ion batteries, there are different chemistries which are getting commercialized. There are next generation technologies, including metal air batteries, fuel cells, and others, which are also seeing improvement. And this improvement is not just in terms of the cost reduction, but also in terms of the performance improvement. And when it comes to e-mobility, perhaps the most important performance improvement is in form of both the volumetric as well as galvanometric, that is as per weight energy density. And there you will notice that just within last 10 years, within lithium-ion batteries, we have improved, for example, energy density from around 110 watt-hour per kg to right now there are certain chemistries which are available, which can go even beyond 270 watt-hour per kg, which are commercially available. And within next 2 to 3 years, we are going to be looking at technologies which can offer even 350 or 500 watt-hour per kg as a energy density. And that is going to open up a lot more capabilities, because you can now have cars with bigger range, you can have cars with less weight. So that means the efficiency of the cars can be better because they are not carrying as much dead weight. And all these improvements together actually are seeing exponential improvement in terms of the business case for e-mobility. And this is not just in form of electric vehicles for road, but also for marine, for electric planes. Even urban air mobility is emerging as a new area where certain next generation technologies like lithium sulfur or others are being seen as a promising technologies. Now, many times you see these type of cartoons shared on social media and in news media, saying that unless we solve the problem of dirty electricity, going electric is not worthwhile, and it is just basically a greenwashing. But is that true? So what I would like to do is just share a quick chart released recently by Elon Musk in one of his presentation, which compares the emissions both during the manufacturing level as well as during the operating level for different type of vehicle. Obviously, this is for a SUV, so you can have slightly different numbers based on the different vehicles. But you can see that it is very easy to make fun of EVs and say that, no, we first have to get 100% renewable before EVs can make an impact. But there are proven statistics which shows that just by even taking out the tailpipe emission from road to taking it to the centralized plants where you can have a easier emission control, it can have a significant improvement on the air quality. But you can also see that in terms of the average life cycle estimation, even when you consider the higher upfront emissions because of the battery production and other components, you can still actually substantially have lower emissions when you are comparing with the business as usual case with diesel or petrol vehicles. So This is something where I think all of us, we need to be very careful in terms of the numbers. Otherwise, especially now that as EVs are presenting threat to the existing IC engine economy as well as the oil companies, we are going to see a lot of such misrepresentation and narrowing down the debate. So we should be aware and clear that no, EVs are clearly environment friendly and we need to do everything to improve it. Obviously, when it comes to EV, it is not just about the electric vehicles, but also about the charging infrastructure. And that's an area where there is a lot of work happening in terms of looking at how do you incorporate distributed energy for improving the EV charging experience and make it more environment friendly. But practically, as the sizes of the car batteries is increasing, I think these type of just few solar panels on a parking lot are not going to be sufficient for meeting the charging energy for the electric vehicles. So you need to look at even the other models where you may have a large renewable farms and then either wheel the power to the charging network and make it green, or there are certain new models which are emerging, like where you can look at maybe battery swapping networks, where you can use centralized location for charging the batteries and then you allow them to be swapped, and this can be quite easily done, particularly for fleet vehicles which are used for two-wheeler and three-wheelers, where already companies like Sun Mobility, Bounce and others have already started seeing good traction from the customers. So it is not going to be a solution for all, but again, this is a part of the solution for certain segments. And we as the IESA have been working with ARAI and other stakeholders in trying to remove the barriers where such as like a differential taxation, where now batteries which go with a electric vehicle have 5% GST, whereas if you are buying batteries separately for swapping, it costs 18% GST while purchasing the batteries. But also when you are providing energy as a service for swapping, it ends up incurring 18% GST during the service model. So there are a lot of these regulatory and policy inefficiencies which have crept into. If those remove, then actually it can enable e-mobility to leapfrog. There are certain innovative solutions being tried up where, for example, one of the IESA startup companies is VFlowTech from Singapore. They are right now doing a pilot in Korea where they are looking at can they actually charge a flow battery electrolyte using renewable energy and then basically ship the charged electrolyte to a charging station which is available at maybe a gas station, and then use it for powering, like doing fast DC charging for electric vehicles. So that way you're not limiting with just distributed renewables available there. And this model can work very well for particularly the oil and petroleum distribution companies who are already used and who have the existing network available for it. Again, this is a little bit futuristic model and still a lot of work required to be done. But what the reason I wanted to show it, just to open up the thought process that there is not just one solution available. There are multiple solutions which are available and which can be scaled up over the coming decade. Now, earlier I talked about the 1,000-mile battery challenge, which Edison was trying to solve. Now we are seeing actually Tesla as well as many other companies having batteries which can last for more than 1 million miles. And in fact, after that, they can be retrofitted and used into second life applications for stationary applications. And why this is important is that when we talk about the upfront emissions related to the battery production, the improvement in the cycle life of the batteries can substantially reduce that, because when some of the original calculations were done for it, people were assuming at least once or twice replacement of batteries. So suddenly the upfront cost or the upfront emission impact of the manufacturing phase ends up becoming double or triple. But with better performance of the batteries, you can now actually cut down those substantially. And then if you also start getting credit for something where the batteries can be used as a second life vehicles, or if they can be recovered completely through a better recycling processes, then you can again start reducing the environmental impact of the batteries and make the EV transition more green. The good part now is that in India, unlike maybe just 5 years back, where there were just maybe a couple of options available for EVs in terms of the cars in India, now more and more choices are getting made available every day. And ARAI is playing a critical role in certification of these vehicles. And we think that within next 2 or 3 years, the choice is going to be tremendous, and that will enable faster adoption of EVs in India. So to support this, IESA 2 years back launched an initiative called EV Adopter Circle with a goal of recognizing the best practices, identifying areas where especially corporates or early adopters can evaluate the EV adoption in a systematic way. And the goal is not to wait for 2030, but try to say that, okay, can this year we can start with at least changing 10% of our fleet vehicles to electric vehicles, and then go to at least 25% by 2025 and cross 50% by 2030. Because it's always easy to talk about 2030 and say we will do something in 2030 and we are waiting for some magic vehicle. But unless we start creating demand for the electric vehicles which are already available commercially in the market, you will not see the investment going into the next generation vehicle. And that's something which as a IESA we are very passionate about. And with ARAI, with ICAT, with ESL, we have been working around where we have developed certain tools where you can analyze the driving patterns of the fleet vehicles and try to pick the right transportation routes where you can adopt electric vehicles. And also ESL has kindly entered into a partnership where they have said that if required, they will build public charging infrastructure so that you don't have to oversize the batteries on some of these electric buses or other transportation vehicles, and try to optimize it that way rather than just waiting for the price to come down. So overall, our analysis suggests that we will have more than 55 million EVs, which majoritarily will be dominated by in terms of the number of vehicles by electric two-wheelers. But when you see the sizing of the batteries, since it is different in terms of the EV battery demand, the market is split quite evenly between electric two-wheelers, electric three-wheelers, and four-wheelers and buses. So again, if you need more information, the complete detailed report is available from IESA. But in the base case, we are projecting between 2020 to 27 the market of more than 150 gigawatt hour in base case scenario. But in the scenario where there is a more focused policy push for EV adoption, the market could be more than 250 gigawatt hour by 2027. And with this, we have started working on policies related to the manufacturing for building capacity building in terms of helping companies enter into the various component and manufacturing area, recycling area for last 5 years. And we are really excited with the focus which directly Prime Minister himself is paying to this. And we thank Mr. Amitabh Kant, especially from Niti Aayog, for spearheading this effort, where the PLI for advanced battery manufacturing as well as electric vehicle component manufacturing is already off. And in fact, within next 2 weeks, the results of the first 50 gigawatt hour manufacturing will be announced. And what we want to do it is that under the PLI program, we are expecting around 50 gigawatt hour to 70 gigawatt hour manufacturing to be set up over next 5 years. But we expect the demand will be continue to keep on growing exponentially, and by 2030 we'll have at least 160 plus gigawatt hour of demand as an annual demand in India. So we have set a vision as IESA that we want to get to at least 100 gigawatt hour manufacturing by 2030 and 500 gigawatt hour by 2035. And also we are starting to pay attention into the sustainability and the greenness of the complete supply chain, which can also enable India to start exporting to markets like Europe. One of the key challenges here is the skill development. And this is again an area where we have been working very closely with ARAI, CMET, Society of Automotive Engineers, UL, IMA, and ASCII for creating various training activities. And again, we are looking forward to collaborating on similar initiatives with IEEE as well. There is an online learning platform available where many of the past training programs are available for either corporates or individuals. We have also launched the IESA Green Jobs portal on 26 January for helping connecting potential applicants with the companies who are very actively hiring in this space. And for additional information, I would encourage you to visit etn.news, which is an online news portal which features regular articles from various experts, as well as podcast emerging tech news, which you can download from any of the apps. Also, IESA website features series of white papers related to this area. So this is an exciting field, and I hope all of you will take opportunity of this opportunity and join with IESA to make India a global hub for R&D, manufacturing, and adoption of advanced energy storage and e-mobility technologies. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rahul, for that wonderful presentation and a perspective on, it was actually a very comprehensive presentation to how India can catapult itself to get ready for the future energy requirements in electric mobility. So thank you so much. And with that, let me invite Dr. Sushil Ramdasi to make a presentation on the technologies that would support green and electric mobility. I have great pleasure in introducing Dr. Sushil, who is the Deputy Director at ARAI, and he has about 28 plus years of experience in research and development on powertrain, alternate energy, transmission, and many more areas. During his long service at ARAI, his key contributions have been in design and development of e-axle, controllers for hydrogen and fuel cell based architecture for vehicles, performance characterization on fuel cells, and so many other aspects of powertrain engineering. He actually holds 2 design patents in the areas of alternate fuel control. He's also recipient of several Best Paper Awards in national as well as international conferences. Dr. Ramdasi is on a government panel of MNRE, which deals with hydrogen fuel cell economy. He holds a PhD in controller development for electric vehicles, hybrids, and similar technologies. He's a postdoctoral collaborator at Delaware University. And with that, I would like to invite Dr. Sushil to make a presentation. And I look forward to more interaction once he finishes his presentation.
Thanks, Rashmi ma'am, for a nice introduction. So I would like to share my screen first. Yeah, I hope the screen is visible to all.
Yes, sir, visible.
Yeah. So good morning all, and thanks to Rashmi ma'am and the organizations. So with brief note, I would like to start my presentation, which is titled Increasing Footprint of Sustainable E-Mobility through Indigenization Process in this Electric and Sustainable Mobility panel discussion. So let's have a quick overview of today's presentation. So we'll see what is the present scenario in powertrain technology, ecosystem and supply chain management, need for electrification, then global roadmap for sustainable mobility, potential segments in the area of electrification, followed by we will have a quick overview of the few case studies that we have done at ARAI to align these goals. And then we will summarize. So let's talk about what's happening in present scenario, especially in the powertrain technology. When we say powertrain, it comprises of engine, transmission, and axles. You know that we have implemented the Euro norms starting from year 2000, and we are here now in 2020. So starting from Euro 1 to Euro 6, it has brought a revolutionary change in IC engine technology in terms of advances in the air handling system, fuel injection system, after treatment devices, and so many design features to improve the emissions and the fuel economy. However, after Euro 6, I think we feel that this technology has reached to a saturation level, and to meet further Euro 6, Euro 7 and above norms, electrification is must. So to align with the global trends and with our contemporary service providers, ARAI has designed and developed so many engines from concept, which are on the screen for different segments like light motor vehicle, light commercial vehicle, tractor, off-road, passenger car. These engines has been designed from clean sheet and meeting respective and prevailing emission norms. So on powertrain, when I say engine, then followed by a transmission. So this is the latest transmission, 7-speed automated manual transmission, which we have developed for a P3 type hybrid electric vehicle architecture. Then on the screen, you can see it's a 4-wheel drive axle for a tractor application. And this is developed for one of the European customers. When we say that what's happening in powertrain technology, and when we are switching from conventional powertrain to the e-mobility, we have to always think for the present ecosystem and supply chain in conventional powertrain technologies, because associated with this ecosystem and supply chain, there are so many stakeholders which has to transform from present powertrain to the e-powertrain. So we have to give some sufficient time for this transformation. Otherwise, it will become disruptions for them. So on the screen, you can see the complete product development, supply chain, vendor network established by ARAI for meeting these goals, what I have just mentioned about it. Okay, so we have seen what's happening in present powertrain. Then why we are talking for the electrification and hybridization? Everybody knows that there is a fossil fuel deflation. There is a need to reduce import crude oil percentage. Now with Euro 6 technology, we can meet CO2 emissions maybe up to 120 grams per kilometer. However, in order to meet this Paris Agreement, what we have signed, all these countries has to work on those technologies which will brought CO2 reductions less than 100 or even less than 50 grams per kilometer. And also CO2 is responsible for global warming and greenhouse gas effect. So whatever technology you have deployed till Euro 6, yes, it has substantially brought down all emissions, but looking at the CO2 emissions and the future reduction further, I think there is a need to change than upgrade in the technology. And that upgradation will come in the form of e-mobility. So few years back, we started working on this e-mobility, but before that, we did a lot of survey. Okay, what's happening globally? And then we have derived a global roadmap for sustainable mobility. So just to summarize this, the good thing and good news is that you can see that IC engines will not die. IC engines will be there till 2050, and they will be mostly in the form of all kind of hybrids. However, parallelly, a lot of work has already started in the areas of hybrids and electric vehicles, and it will be followed by fuel cell electric vehicles in certain segments. So in order to again become a leader and to become a contemporary, ARAI started few years back in the areas of the electrification of vehicles. So quickly, I will take you through few case studies what we have successfully completed. So on the screen, you can see that the very popular small commercial vehicle, which we have converted into the electric vehicle through the front loading approach. When I say front loading approach, it involves the model-in-based simulation techniques, use of SIL, CIL, HIL, PIL, which will give a robust controller development. So this is the outcome of that complete front loading approach, which is scientifically followed. The same approach we followed for converting existing ICE-based diesel vehicle into the electric vehicle, but in the process we converted into a lightweight bus used by developing and designing an aluminum superstructure, which has reduced 800 kg, and that has helped in improving 10% reduction in present fossil fuel, that is diesel fuel consumption. And with a partner, we converted this vehicle into the electric vehicle. Then recently, we are developing the e-axle based powertrains, which is the recent latest development trend in the area of the e-mobility. So this e-axle again has been developed from concept, and we are working for the small commercial vehicle, light commercial vehicle, and electric three-wheelers to be converted with this. So this is add-on, what I can say, some advances in e-mobility we want to brought in, and we are calling it as a power distribution unit, where the motor, inverter, and the gearbox, they are integrated in one housing, and everything will be fitted on the rear axle or front axle. So this will give a lot of space for incorporation of even hydrogen and the fuel cell component. So these EVs can be converted into the fuel cell electric vehicles very easily if we can go with this power distribution unit kind of approach. This is the simply exploded view of what I have mentioned. So this is how the small commercial vehicles, as an example I am showing, will be converted into the e-axle based electric vehicles. Then we have also worked on the hybrid electric vehicles. We started working in the strong hybrid electric vehicle. We selected P3 kind of hybrid electric vehicle architecture, where the torque from the induction motor can be added at the end of the main transmission. So in the process, we developed 7-speed automated manual transmission in a P3 configuration, and you can see its effect. The number of operating points negotiated on NEDC, which are shown by the yellow points, have been reduced to those black operating points with our hybrid electric vehicle supervisory controller. And remaining points have been replaced by the electric vehicle. This has given us a 24% fuel economy on NEDC with an intermediate experimental technique. So this architecture has resulted into a low-cost hybrid electric vehicle powertrain, which can give a fuel consumption improvement in the order of 20 to 25%. I think India should have followed this roadmap, but anyway, now we have jumped on the EV and FCEV mobility. Then the last topic of the presentation is the fuel cell technology, which is a power source for the future. So quickly we can see this is a fuel cell where you can see that it is an energy generation device. It's not an energy storage device. So hydrogen is supplied at the anode, oxygen is supplied at the cathode, and the electricity is produced. This electricity can be used to charge the battery or even propel the motor. So fuel cell is basically a chemical device, and then it requires a lot of components such as the balance of plant on the anode side and cathode side. So basically fuel cell is not competitor to the electric vehicle, rather it's a supplementary to the electric vehicle. So you can see that the rest of the electric vehicle architecture is untouched and the fuel cell system is just add-on. And this is how the complete fuel cell engine looks like. So this comprises of the fuel cell stack of 100 kilowatt and having supported with the balance of plant. This is for a 100 kilowatt. This 100 kilowatt fuel cell is for a 12-meter bus application. In India, this is the market spread where we can apply the fuel cell technology. We can apply the fuel cell as a range extender for electric three-wheelers or even for a passenger car vehicles or even in small commercial vehicles. However, fuel cell will find its place in the heavy commercial vehicle segment, especially for the intercity bus applications, trucks, and even for off-highway applications like tractor. So this is the product development process for converting existing electric vehicles into the fuel cell electric vehicles. Rather, I will say this cycle has to be followed for converting to ICE to EV and EV to the FCEV. And while doing this transformation, we have to look for a feasible and sustainable business scenario by giving a lot of thrust on R&D, indigenization, making ecosystem supply chain management, testing and certification. So all this should will attract new business perspectives, scenario and opportunities, which will give a sustainable e-mobility. So this is a proposed green hydrogen ecosystem for fuel cell electric vehicles. We have to develop the hydrogen from green energy, like electrolyzers. We will generate that hydrogen, then there is need to storage the hydrogen, then hydrogen dispensing. At each stage, there are challenges and a lot of technology and business potentials to make a sustainable mobility. So few examples of the fuel cell technology. ARAI is also working in collaboration with the University of Delaware, where we have got exposed in converting EVs into the fuel cell electric buses. 90% range extension is achieved in this particular program. Then you might be knowing that railway is working in a big way in converting the diesel locomotives into the electric locomotives, followed by hydrogen fuel cell electric locomotives. ARAI is taking participation through tendering process. Recently we have got a very big project where the electric tractors can be converted into the hydrogen fuel cell electric tractors. So this is a very attractive from the perspective of the use of biofuels, because we have the abundant amount of bioenergy in terms of we have bio-CNG, bioethanol in the field, farm field. Using this, we can generate hydrogen, and then that hydrogen can be used to propel this tractor instead of the battery. Apart from that, we have to focus on the indigenization of the electric drive system components controllers while improving the efficiency and to get the minimum current consumption. So ARAI has developed their own plant models for the induction motor and PMSM, which are used to they have further extended to make direct torque controller and field orientation controller, which is the heart of any electric vehicle or fuel cell electric vehicle or the electric drive, which is used in the hybrid electric vehicle. There is a lot of potential to shift from PMSM to the induction motors, but those induction motors should be lightweight and high-speed induction motor. So like SRM, this is the future in case of electric drive technology. Also, in order to control the total harmonic distortion and to improve the current consumption, I think there is a need to work on the symmetric and asymmetric multi-level, 5-level and 7 inverters to brought down the THD content in the output of inverter up to the order of 5 to 8%. This is how we can get a sinusoidal wave output using the multi-level inverters, which will improve the current consumption. And lastly, we have to go with an advanced architectures for the electric vehicles rather than going with the conventional route where we just simply remove the engine and transmission. Rather than we can think of adopting the power distribution units and electric axles, which will give a lot of room for placement of the hydrogen storage and the fuel cell, so that the existing EVs can be converted into the FCEVs. And even if somebody want to continue with EV, we can thought for 2-speed, 3-speed transmissions, which are essentially automated manual transmission, especially for the heavy commercial vehicles or light commercial vehicles, so that you can use more operating map or efficiency map of the motor very efficiently. The study shows 4 to 5% improvement in current consumption with 2 to 3 speed AMT for EVs and 8 to 10% during a constant speed operation. So we have developed our own automated manual transmission hardware, software, and microcontroller architecture. So this is a component in loop simulation rig which we have developed, where we can test the electromechanical actuation system, where the electric motors have loaded with the alternator, and we can test our AMT controller strategy with that. So with this, I'm coming to my end. Just to summarize, battery electric vehicles are likely to be highly competitive in sectors where daily utilization rates are less than 200 kilometers. I think Dr. Rahul Walawalkar mentioned the same thing. So 2-wheelers, 3-wheelers, small commercial vehicles, last mile delivery applications, and passenger vehicles are the right candidate for that. Range extender kind of series hybrids are good options for intra-city. That means the buses which are running in the city, or even for electric 3-wheelers and small commercial vehicles, just to reduce range anxiety and dependency on charging infrastructure. However, low-cost strong hybrids are the good solutions, especially for LCV and passenger car segments. Then fuel cell electric vehicle bus trucks may be preferred option for a longer routes where you want to log more than 200, 400, 500 kilometers. However, FCEV is dependent on the robust cost declines in multiple technologies and low delivered cost of hydrogen. So this, I think this statement is very, very important. If we want to increase the penetration of fuel cell technology, I think the cost factor has to be substantially reduced. Finally, fuel cell will find a very attractive solution for highways, off-highway applications like electric tractors and electric locomotives, so that we can promote more the use of the biofuels in this technology. And finally, indigenization is the key to control CapEx and OpEx. I think that is the only way. Thus, to make FCEV, it's not only related to FCEV, it is applicable to EV, hybrids, and FCEV technology that will become more affordable, acceptable, and hence sustainable. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sushil, for that wonderful presentation. I think it was, I was feeling as if a canvas of technologies was being presented for India to get ready to have the challenge. From the progress of IC to product development to CO2 reduction technologies, and then finally to hybrids, EVs, and fuel cell. What I liked about the tone of your presentation is that reassurance that you gave that IC will not die. And
Yes,
while all technologies should coexist, and that's the key as scientific people, I think that is what really matters for us, that we are there to solve the problems, and the technology will come
Thank you,
with right approach. So thanks, Ramdasi. I move on to the third presentation, and to do that, I would invite Mr. Manoj Kumar Daniel, who is a DGM at Maha-Metro. Mr. Manoj Kumar has 7+ years experience with metro rail systems, with a special focus on managing multimodal transportation integration. He has a rich experience with L&T Metro Rail at Hyderabad project and several other projects that he had been handling. Intracity bus services has been his area also of work, and he had made noted contributions in hop-in, hop of buses, especially in Delhi and Goa regions, where tourist attractions have been, behind these technologies. He also has about more than 2 decades experience with FMCG and telecom industry. So he brings in a great value to transportation planning, and with the interaction I have with him, he's an excellent technical marketing person who will do the engagement with consumers to promote the mass transportation. And it's my pleasure to invite Sheetal.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, screen is visible, sir.
Okay.
Am I audible, please?
Yes.
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 So let me first appreciate and thank the event conveners, especially the event moderator, and yes, the speakers, the eminent speakers, and the most experienced, versatile, I should say, the first mile of the entire journey. And I here come as the last mile, the last segment of the entire journey of adaptation and ensuring that more and more people get onto the e-mobility as we progress. This is just the beginning, I'm sure. And at Maha-Metro, we have a vision to move people onto the e-mobility for sure, try and reduce as much as pollution, as much as congestion, as much as whatever you call today we're facing in terms of, we never heard a knockdown in a city like Delhi just because of pollution. You can imagine the days, how it's going to be if we don't work, if we don't come together and work together to reduce the level of pollutions, congestion, and make a city a livable city. So this is our endeavor. This is Manoj Daniel here. I'm the DGM for multimodal integrations and transport planning for Maha-Metro, based out of Pune. I also was in Nagpur to set up the entire MMI systems. We're doing close to about 6,000 plus of commuters every day with the COVID conditions. Hope to do better. As you all know that Pune is around the corner. We have our launch, official launch being flagged off by the Honorable Prime Minister on 6th of March. So we're all gearing up for the entire launch. Right. Let me start off with our vision statement, which we have. Our vision is to create an energy efficient metro rail system of international standards, which will obviously enhance the quality of life of the citizen of Pune and be instrumental in overall development of the city by making it more vibrant and attractive, and utilize the full potential of green energy in the form of electric, solar, wind, etc. Our mission, yes, is to provide a safe, reliable, efficient, affordable, commuter-friendly, and environmental sustainable mobility system for the Pune metro region. So this is our vision and a mission, and we are sure that we'll be able to get it to. Let me also start. Most of us are coming from the transport background. This is a good, beautiful statement by Gustavo Petro, the Colombian politician, the former mayor of Bogota, who said, a developed country is not a place where the poor have cars. It is where rich use the public transportation. You should excuse me for using that green in between the sentence, right? Okay. So maybe he's not envisaged that future is going to be green, right? So metro integrated feeder services is something which is the backbone for any metro systems across the globe. Until you don't feed into the metro system, until you don't generate the ridership, it becomes a little challenging in terms of the sustainability of any mass transportation systems like the metros, right? So we are here. Our target is to build a safe, seamless, economic, efficient, reliable, comfortable, convenient, zero emissions, and technology-driven integrated green mobility for the first and the last mile connectivity in the city of Pune. What do we do? We focused on integrated EV service providers and build an efficient street infra. We got signed up an MOU with one of the best operators on the e-vehicle, e-mobility operators, service providers across the country. E-bicycles, we have 2 operators. One of the largest operators is My Bike. Today, they operate about close to 11,000 bicycles across the country. And very soon with Pune project, they would be also launching the e-bicycles. So very soon. So maybe the end of March, you should be able to see some of the e-bicycles in the city of Pune. Likewise, we have already signed up with 10 e-bike operator service providers. They range from G Mobility, Yulu, Bounce, Single Point, E-Matrix. E-Matrix are from the Hero Electric Group. We have Monk, we have Kinetic Green, Pune-based organization. Then we also have EEE, Rovet, Flow, Power, Ride, and on. A lot of people are coming to us to be partner to provide the last and the first mile connectivity for the citizens who using the metro services. Yes, we have already signed up an MOU with the largest group of auto operators in the city of Pune. All 2 operators, one of the largest operators in the city of Pune and PCMC. Close to them, they have a base of 80,000 auto operators together. So you can imagine all these operators are coming on a tech platform. They're building their mobile app for the first time in their lives, where it will be integrated with Maha-Metro app. So a commuter sitting at home can book his auto rickshaw. Plus, he can also buy his metro ticket and also the last mile to book an auto. So this is the kind of environment we're creating. We already signed up with e-cabs. Then we are also largely banking, and we have an agreement with the PMPML, the city bus services in the city of Pune. They already have close to about 150 e-buses. They are expecting another 350 buses to come by end of June. In fact, on 6th of March, the Honorable Prime Minister is launching about close to 100 e-buses. So we are deploying, we are working very closely with them to deploy the first and the last mile feeder bus services from every station. To begin with, we already plan to deploy all the e-buses from the first 10 stations which will be rolled out on 6th of March. So to an extent, we're also integrating the ticketing system, the passenger information system, so that a commuter can access the data information and also transact for the ticketing purpose. So this is the kind of integrations we're talking about in city of Pune with Maha-Metro. Yes, we are in touch. We already had several rounds of meetings with probably the largest EV charging service providers in the country, including few of them MNCs who have visited us. Today, if you see, 2 of our stations are already installed with EV charging stations, and we're getting ready for the launch on 6th. These include ESL, then we have Bolt, we have Reliance, we have Tata, we have Power Grid. So these are the companies who are actually working with us to set up the EV charging stations at all of our 30 stations to begin with. Not just at the stations, we also have parking places identified. Some of the parking places are available with the PCMC and PMC authorities, and we will be taking over them. We'll also try and install, we have a plan to install EV charging stations and also have a feeder parking places there at each of the stations. These are some of the photographs, factuals. You see the G Mobility, or entrepreneur who's willing to put in money, effort, and the vehicles to provide the first and last mile connectivity. You see one of the installations getting done at Garware College, Anand Nagar College. Garware College is the station where the Prime Minister is going to launch of the Pune Metro services. So we're all getting ready. You see My Bike vehicles already parked at the stations. And you see another operator called Grun Mobility. Already they have deployed there. They operate almost 350 e-bikes in the city of Pune. So now they are enhancing the inventory to have the first and the last mile e-mobility from every station to different places of the town. So these are some of the examples. We have already, as I said, we have close to about 10 operators which you have signed up the MOU, right? Sustainable mobility, yes. As I said, I have heard all the experts, the knowledgeable, the technical experts trying to get all the solutions to ensure e-mobility is going to be the future. We are part of the stakeholders to ensure adaptation. We would like citizens to use the e-mobility in the city of Pune. So the idea is to bring all stakeholders on one single integrated platform, ensuring that we all together can give the best of the products and the services to every citizen in the city. So what we have done recently is, perhaps Pune is the first city in the country to have an EV cell. We have created an EV cell. You see the list of stakeholders on the left side of the slide. We have Government of Maharashtra, Mr. Aditya Thackeray himself is driving this particular e-cell. We have more people from more than PMC, of course, PML, then MCCI, Smart City, MSCB, MSC, DCL, the RTO, the Pune Police Traffic Department, Environment Department, ARAI, of course, CIRT, OEMs. We have several OEMs there, including Walawalkar. Service providers, as I said, we all are feeder operators are part of this cell. A lot of NGOs, and of course, we also part of the entire cell. So we are trying to build an environment to promote e-mobility in the city of Pune. I'll just share some of the slides, the vision of our EV cell. Charging infrastructure and battery swapping, yes, we have land availability. We're trying to develop that into charging stations for e-mobility. We're talking about a single window clearance for NOC requirements. Now, anybody who is approaching with an EV vision, can get in touch with the EV cell as a single window clearances, since all the stakeholders are part of it. So we have a vision to work together to ensure we promote, we clear, we permit all sorts of requirements asked by every operator or a manufacturer or any OEM. Upstream charging infrastructure upgrades. This is what we're looking at: capacity building, promotion, PPP models, subsidized EV tariffs. So all this is part of the entire agenda of EV cell solutions. EV charging station plan for the city. We have already have plans. Of course, as I said, Maha-Metro, all the stations would have EV charging stations at almost all the for any entrepreneur today is a single window clearance for clear charging station deployment across the city. First and last mile connectivity. Yes, clarity on government plans and processes related to the first and last mile connectivity. So we are all working together to find solutions to the challenges, ensure that all stakeholders come together and provide amicable solutions, faster solutions, so that we convert city of Pune into a more greener EV mobility city. Improve awareness and promotion of the government processes. We would like to focus on how do we improve on creating an awareness so that every citizen is aware of what are the processes, what are the SOPs, what are the procedures to get a permit, or be part of the stakeholders group to promote EV. Clarity on EV registration for first and last mile vehicles. Law is important. The local law is important. Transport is a state subject. So that's the reason the highest level of the stakeholder group is the Minister for Environment, Mr. Aditya Thackeray himself. We're trying to tweak in the law in the local city, registration of e-rickshaws or e-bikes, then roadmap for two-wheeler rental services. Some of the cities have got across the country. We still have not given the permits, so we are trying to open up that window. Then awareness of EV cell website. We are trying to create a EV cell website so that people can access, get the information, and also get their issues resolved. Continuing, yes, charging infrastructure for first and last mile connectivity. Locations apart from the Maha-Metro stations and parking offices, the interchange stations, the host of list we have prepared in terms of every police station should have a EV charging station. Every government building should have an EV charging station. Every corporate, we're looking at spaces to install EV charging station. Like for example, We had a meeting recently with Alpha Level, and then they've come forward to install EV charging stations at Kasarwadi metro station, wherein they've got about close to about 8,800 employees coming in every day. So now from 1st of March, they are insisting that once the metro starts, they're driving their employees to use the metro. And for the last and the first mile, our operators are meeting them on 2nd of March to provide the e-bicycles, e-bikes, and e-autos for the employees. So this is what we're trying to do in terms of the first and the last mile connectivity. Solutions, yes, EV dashboard displaying the charging location in the city so that everybody is aware of it, where the charging stations are located. Single window clearance, again, as I said, for charging station development across the city. Okay, we would like to create a lot of hubs, residential area, commercial area, education institutions, campuses, universities, name anything. We have already identified, we're trying to see that all these avenues will become EV charging points, right? Then on a website, efficient website for a lot of awareness and information for the end user, right? Governance and awareness is very important, because end of the day, we all are busy manufacturing e-vehicles, and then if there's no law, then it's difficult to implement them, adapt them in the city. So we are working very closely with the governance, local governance, who is also part of the stakeholders. So we are looking at creating seamless, efficient processes so that we convert the city of Pune from IC into EV, right? Roadmap for EV development, incentive disbursement portal, dedicated EV only zones, no emission zones in Pune. So these are part of the agenda, where we recently had a conference with the entire stakeholders, where Mr. Aditya Thackeray himself was present for the entire session. Solutions, EV readiness plan across efficient EV ecosystem, which is already in place, which we have sent it to New Delhi for some clearances. And once that is done, probably city of Pune, other than Delhi, would be the second city to adapt this kind of plans and city. Industry, government, academics, collaborations, retrofitment schemes, and EV website, as I said. When I said single window process for EV charging installation, this is what we're looking at. Importance of EV charging at private and semi-public places. Large-scale adaptation of electric 2- and 3-wheeler is critical for Pune transition as India's first EV-ready city. The biggest hindrance to this large-scale adaptation is the lack of adequate charging infra. So we are building that. PMC, PMPML is planning to install more than 400 charging points in the city by utilizing the funds from 15th Finance Commission. PMC has also joined hands with ARAI to develop chargers in the city, right? So this is what we're looking at. Then challenges in installing EV charging points. Apart from the Maha-Metro parking stations, offices, we're looking at various other points across the city. Continuing it, single window, as I said, it's very important. So that's always there. We're trying to create that. And then step-by-step window process, which we will adapt, we will roll out very soon as a cell. Just to summarize the solutions, charging infra development in city, a single window clearance for charging station deployment in city, EV charging infrastructure plan for the city, upstream charging infrastructure planning for the city, EV operation in the city, registration of e-rickshaws, allowing 2-wheeler rental services, low emission zone in the city, ease of financing for EVs. Then comes to the policies and regulation, as I said, retrofitment schemes, EV cell website, parking regulations for EVs, ease of financing. Again, efficient process will make sure people experience hassle-free processor. And of course, we should move on to a technology platform. So mobile integrations, we would like to bring all the stakeholders onto single integrated mobile application, so that it's an efficient way of getting information and also transacting. Thank you very much. I think together we all come together, creating a green environment for this Pune city through green mobility. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Manoj ji, for that wonderful presentation and a leadership role that Pune is taking in transforming ourselves into a green city. The concept of EV cell is really very positive looking. And from PKC Pune Knowledge Cluster side, I extend all my support in whatever way we can also contribute in making this a success. So thanks very much for putting up that wonderful presentation, and I really appreciate and look forward to that inauguration that is planned on 6th of coming month. With that, I think we have we can now open the panel for discussions. I would also request all the delegates to post their questions or discussion points in the chat window, and I request Sheetal if you can collect all those chats and then address it to us. And as we move towards that, maybe I have a few questions for the panel. For the next few minutes, maybe we can have a discussion on these points. India's ambitious target for carbon neutral transportation, whether it is in the 2045 or 2047 or 2050 or as early as 2030 or so. The date is not so critical, but the path is, in my view, quite important. Let me turn the question to Rahul first. With that in view, that big target that India has declared at global level, etc., are we really ready from the energy storage and distribution side of it? Whether we have adequate, capabilities, adequate technologies. Partly, of course, you have covered it in your presentation, but final take on the readiness for India.
This is a very important question, and I think the answer is it is evolving. I think right now it's still very early days. I think there are many companies who are working very passionately about it, and I'm very optimistic that India will be ready. But I also see a lot of inertia, especially amongst many large companies and large establishments where I think it is taking slightly longer than, or maybe to be blunt, not slightly, but substantially longer than what it should have taken. The biggest challenge is going to be, I think, is going to be the readiness with the skill development and the manpower. I think that could be the biggest hurdle, both from the manufacturing point, but even beyond manufacturing. Actually, if we are seeing this type of a transportation or the technology shift, then for example, right now, if you are using any IC engine vehicle and if you have any problem, you can, I think within like a 1 or 2 kilometer, you can easily find a technician or maintenance mechanic who can take care of it. Or if you want to replace any parts, you know how to take care of it. So I think to build that complete ecosystem, I think it is going to require a lot more planning and other activities. Also, there are certain fundamental shifts which are happening, where as compared to the IC engine ecosystem, where there are so many different components and parts which are getting manufactured. I think when you start moving towards the e-mobility area, I think maybe the number of parts and other things are substantially reduced. So it may affect actually many businesses where it may not be a very painless transition. So it is very important for some of these companies to identify such areas. But I agree with Sushil ji that I don't think that there is any abrupt transition which is going to happen where suddenly in 2030 or 35, suddenly IC engine vehicles will disappear. I think it will be more gradual transition, like what we are looking at is by 2030, somewhere between like 20 to 50% for many of the customer segments in terms of the vehicle on the road. In terms of the new vehicle sales, maybe it can go beyond 50%, but in terms of the overall fleet vehicle, somewhere between 30-35, we think around, even if we can get to 30% or more, that's going to be a very substantial demand and very challenging to adopt. I think we have time to be ready if we start immediately and we stop wasting time and stop getting stuck with the inertia.
Excellent. Coming to the technology side, Sushil, you already presented almost a recipe as such for the future. You covered about various technologies, what can be suitable for what. In order that we have a carbon neutral transportation, do you still feel that the hybrids can do their jobs well?
Yeah, ma'am. Ideally, I think we should have followed a roadmap of Japan and South Korea, especially the Far East countries, where the population of hybrid electric vehicles is more substantial. Rather, they started too early in implementing that technology. See, the vision was that it will give some time for the transformation from conventional ICE to EV if we go with the hybrids. But the products what they have, especially the iconic vehicles in the market, I don't want to take the names, they give the 30 to 35% fuel economy, which is really substantially good. But looking at their price and the cost, that technology, I think the government thought that it may not be affordable from Indian perspective. But if we would have gone with a low-cost hybrid electric vehicle technology to start with, like what ARAI started working few years back and demonstrated one small prototype. So I think 20% fuel economy per vehicle from Indian context is a substantial figure. Okay. And that would have saved a lot of fuel and even the carbon neutrality.
Okay, I like that optimism, and let us see that it becomes a reality in future. Coming to the consumer readiness, and I saw one question coming up from the chat box also. Manoj Kumarji, what is your take on the consumer readiness? Because you have been working with the metro as well as other mass transportation. That change in the behavior of consumers, how can that be influenced to go for the carbon neutral transportation?
My experience in Hyderabad and being associated with some public transport projects across the country with tourism, then Delhi Metro feeder services. It is just the beginning in a city of Pune. It happens. We have proved in Hyderabad that we used to contribute almost 18 to 20% of the ridership for Hyderabad Metro Rail through the feeder services alone, right? We had close to about 30,000 e-bikes across the 60 stations. We had e-buses also flying at some of the routes, into the IEEE zone. So it's a matter of time. So today it's a chicken and egg. The consumer is looking at if I buy an EV vehicle, where do I charge? How do I charge? And it's the other way around. If an EV charger service provider is looking at what is the sizable consumers available in a particular city, so both have to go together. It evolves. I'm very sure that people will migrate onto the E. You see today the number of brands available, whether it's 4-wheeler or 3-wheelers or 2-wheelers. It's a matter of time, and look at the conditions of the fuel prices shooting up globally. Look at the climatic conditions, which is deteriorating day by day. So people have realized, and I think most are even blessings in disguise of the COVID period, where people did realize that probably they need to move on to a greener environment, and each one would love to have a vehicle. So my endeavor is don't buy a vehicle when I'm here to provide you a rental services through my operators. So why do you still want to go and put that money in, and block it? So use my services. I'm trying to provide you bicycles, e-bicycles, e-bikes, e-autos, e-buses. What more you need? I mean, today our operators are willing to give away the e-bicycle at the rate of 2 rupees per hour. I mean, what else you need? And my bicycles are allowed on board the train. So you can still continue your journey with your bicycles, e-bicycles on board the train. So what makes you still drive and say that I want to buy a 60,000 or 80,000 worth of two-wheeler when I'm providing it to you at 5-10 rupees per hour kind of thing, So this is what we're driving it. It will evolve for sure. It's all it's matter of visibility, availability at the stations. When commuters start using the metros, when they see the equipment assets down below the stations, I'm sure they would be tempted. They would realize that, yes, this is the mode of transport, and it will evolve. It will evolve. There's no reason why the e-mobility will not succeed. It will succeed. It is just that like any other product, any other commodity, metros along with the metro feeder services, especially the E segment, has to be sold. When I say sold, it has to be sold like a consumer product. It is not that I put in 13,000 crores of money into the city and then I just wait for people to come. No, I have to go to their end, try and convince them and give them the facility and ensure that they come on board to the metro, including our feeder services. So this is what is our vision. And then I'm sure there's no reason why we will not succeed.
Yes, thanks for that. You know, we will obviously, as planners and as well as policymakers, encourage that minimize the public, private vehicles to the extent possible. But there is a question in the text box related to a common man, and I'll read that question.
Rahul sir wants to say something.
Yes, Rahul.
Eraser.
Yeah, please.
So Rashmi, I wanted to just add to what Sushil mentioned in terms of the hybrid vehicles. Again, as the India Energy Storage Alliance, we have supported actually policies on hybrid vehicles from start. The only challenge I think which happened was, I think even as you know that in FAME 1 hybrid vehicles were allowed. Unfortunately, instead of introducing strong hybrids, I think majority of the money was captured. And again, it was a loophole. So I don't want to say whose fault it was it the policymakers or the companies? But I think against the spirit of the policy, I think the majority of the money ended up going to particularly models like Maruti Ciaz, which was just a mild hybrid where it was not truly to the intent of what was government was trying to incentivize. And then I think there was a overreaction where basically government decided that then we are going to just eliminate hybrid vehicles from it. So I think that was a mistake from the government side. And maybe I think as the industry also, we were not, all of us were not together enough or ready enough for hybrid policies. But one thing I would just caution is that at least the international experience right now is showing that EVs are catching up very fast. So there may be right now certain segments where, for example, people who are driving more than 100 kilometers per day, EVs make very clear sense. But for people who are maybe driving between say maybe 40-50 kilometer and 100 kilometer hybrid vehicles for next maybe 3-4 years still would make sense. But this is a dynamic situation and it keeps on changing as maybe the more choices with battery electric vehicles will come in as the charging infrastructure improves and people can have maybe vehicles with smaller battery pack, then suddenly the price difference will come down. Because in US, we are seeing at least that some of the major OEMs are discontinuing their hybrid electric vehicle models and switching to purely electric vehicles. So what we wish is that as a government, policy should be agnostic. And I think one of the biggest change I think which probably is required is I think in terms of the taxation, because right now the taxation and import duties is more linked to the price of the vehicles, where obviously since in hybrid vehicles you have both the drivetrains, the capital cost ends up becoming higher, and that is actually creating a very uneven level playing field for users, because the hybrid vehicles suddenly are costing in India twice than what it should be. And that is affecting the demand. And because there is no demand signal, companies who could be manufacturing in India are saying, we don't want to invest into manufacturing. So it's becoming a little bit chicken and egg. But I agree with Sushilji that I think especially next 5 years, there is still a window of opportunity. And it's not a choice between one against other, like as
sure. In fact, we should also look at other greener options like biofuels and several other options that are more relevant to India than just pure electric.
Sure.
Thanks for that comment. And I now take a few questions from the audience. There's a question. It says illiterate persons easily buy a non-electric vehicle, that is conventional vehicles. Does a common person owning a EV need to be trained? If yes, what steps are taken to generate the demand? So who would like to take that question?
Yeah, I can take up that.
Yes, please.
Actually, the question is very relevant. Instead of training, first, I think we should create an awareness. We should give the experience to the customer that what are the real tangible benefits of this new technology. In terms of, first, the question comes about the range and the charging infrastructure. Okay. So once this awareness increases to the customer, I think then the more people will start buying it. Okay.
I think the question is related to any training.
Yeah, I'm
if the
coming to that. I'm coming to that. So while doing that, I think parallelly then one has to create a complete infrastructure for educating the people. When I say experience, that experience combines both. One is to insist on the utility, and at the same time, if you want to utilize that utility effectively, training is must. So training and the awareness, I think it has to go hand in hand.
Okay.
And more focus has to be given mostly on the safety part of handling of the EVs. So
Okay.
training has to be done, and another is the after sales service, after sales support, okay, and maintenance, etc. I think these are the areas we need to be considered.
Okay. Thanks, Sushil. I'll take this question, which is directed to Rahul, and it says, with already so much progress in the technology and energy storage, is there still any research opportunity in this? And does IESA support these in any form, whether monetary or otherwise?
Sure. Yeah, that's an interesting question. Yes, there is a lot of technology change has happened, but I think that this is a continuously moving and evolving field, as we are seen with like semiconductor, electronics. In fact, the timelines for innovations are getting actually crunched. So yeah, there are tremendous opportunities for R&D, technology commercialization in every aspect of it, and we have a very strong focus on that. And there are various support structures available within IESA, where, for example, for students or researchers, we offer 50% discount for being part of IESA. There are specific scholarships or awards which are being right now structured with SAE, IEEE, and others which are currently under development. So we hope to roll those out later this year. And also we have ongoing internship opportunities, where particularly for researchers who want to work on an industry-led research program, then we are trying to put together this, where through all the 150 plus IESA members and regular discussions in various technology and policy working groups, we are coming up with research challenges where industry needs solutions, and then trying to map all the, we have already created a mapping of more than 50 R&D institutions in India, as well as some of the international agencies who are working in India related research, and trying to create a industry academic collaboration network around that. We are also supporting many of the research labs for raising funding by bringing in industry support. So for example, we have worked with Pune University, Visit AI. Currently we are working with SECRI as well as ARCI for supporting some of the new infrastructure which is being set up, and bringing in the industry support for that. So yeah, please drop a mail to contact@indiaesa.info and let us know what are the areas where you need support.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. The next is not a question, but it's a suggestion that for e-mobility, last mile delivery needs to have incentives for the user side also. So for example, exemption from tolls and other things. It also says that insurance premiums and other things can also be considered. I think that's a good suggestion. As I move on to the next question, the question is the present grid capable of accommodating this large influx of EVs in such in each segment? Who would like to take that question?
Sure, I can take a first crack at it. So again, in terms of the supply side of the grid, I think we are quite capable. In fact, the grid expansion which is happening in terms of the generation additions is quite substantial. And in fact, right now, everyone in the grid operation side is looking for avenues for increasing the demand and also adding flexible demand to the grid, because that's where I think you can start optimizing the investments on the grid side. And EV presents that perfect solution, where it's basically EVs are all the batteries on wheels, so you can have flexibility as well. But the challenge is more going to be on the distribution side of the grid, where depending on how the EV penetration increases, that can create significant imbalances, because the international experience suggests that many times the EV adoption is very heavily driven by sort of the financial capability, and that unfortunately ends up becoming concentrated in certain smaller parts of the distribution network, and that may mean pretty substantial upgrades and investments into the distribution network. and that could be a challenge for many distribution companies. We also need to have proper policies so that the EV infrastructure which is getting built, for example, right now in US or some of the other developed countries, already most of the new EV charging infrastructure getting developed is being set up in terms of the bidirectional. Whereas in India, one challenge is that we do tend to sort of do these large scale tenders from ESL or CESL and look for sort of the cheapest solution available, in which case we are going to build large amount of infrastructure which may not be smart enough or which may not provide the ideal flexibility which can help the grid. So we need to plan of all those aspects, and the grid will evolve. I think I'm not too much worried about it, because it is not about just a investment in increasing the grid, right? This is a ever like required demand for the discoms which is there. So I think it's a blessing in disguise for the discoms in terms of the increasing load because of the EVs. We just need to ensure that it doesn't end up becoming concentrated where suddenly just the peak load increases, and then that could basically become financially unviable. But if we look at EV as a flexible load, then it can be a perfect solution.
Thanks, Rahul. I think the chat box is flooded with more questions, but looking at the watch, I think we should close this. What I suggest is, Sheetal, if you can pose these questions to the panelists, then offline they can answer those questions.
Yes,
so thanks everybody for being so active in discussions, and I thank all the panelists for wonderful presentation. And with that, I would like to conclude this session and hand it over to Dr. Surekha and Dr. Mandar.
Thank you, Rashmi ma'am. Now I am here to propose vote of thanks. So on behalf of organizing team, Pune Knowledge Cluster, Pune Power and Energy Society and Industry Application Society, IEEE Pune, and PES India Chapter, I am proposing vote of thanks. So on occasion of Science Day program, we are very grateful to the today's eminent panel, Dr. Rahul Walawalkar, President and MD of Customized Energy Solutions India Private Limited, Dr. Sushil Ramdasi, Deputy Director, Powertrain Lab, Automotive Research Association of India, that is ARAI, and Mr. Manoj Kumar Daniel, Deputy General Manager, Maha-Metro, Pune, for sharing their expertise and experiences in the field of EV and sustainable mobility. We are thankful to them for sparing their valuable time and active participation in fruitful panel discussion. As a token of appreciation, we would like to present e-certificates panelists. So let me share my screen for a moment. Is my screen visible?
Yes, yes, Manoj.
Okay, so first we would like to appreciate Dr. Rahul Walawalkar sir for giving insight about battery technologies and the roadmap towards energy storages which are required, and even the grid readiness for EV integration. Thank you, sir. Secondly, we would like to present a certificate to Dr. Sushil Ramdasi, who has given an overview of what ARAI is doing and then how they are ready for adding the fleet of electric vehicle in Indian scenario. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Mandar.
And lastly, we would like to appreciate Mr. Manoj Kumar Daniel for giving the wonderful presentation on Maha-Metro and the other ecosystems which are simultaneously being developed and the efforts which are taking for making a city carbon neutral. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah, moving ahead. I am thankful to Dr. Rashmi Urdhwareshe madam, Senior Advisor, PKC, for moderating the session and for great teaching. Thank you, madam. I am also thankful to Professor Ajit Kembavi, Principal Investigator, for initiating this activity and for his constant motivation and support throughout this activity. I am thankful to Mr. Girish Kilari, Chair, IEEE Pune, Mr. Dinanath Kolkar, Chair, Industrial IEEE Pune, Mr. Jagdish Chaudhary, Execom of IEEE Pune section. Actually, he was, or he has played the role in connecting PES-IAS as well as IEEE to PKC for arranging this collaborative event. I extend my thanks to Dr. Shilpa Jain Madam, Sheetal Madam, and the entire team of PKC who have worked wholeheartedly for making this program successful. I further extend my thanks to Dr. Surekha Deshmukh, Chair, PICC, and Execom of PES and IEEE Pune section, along with all the office bearers of PES-IAS chapter IEEE Pune section for constant support. Lastly, I am thankful to all invitees, Execom members of IEEE Pune section, IEEE members, volunteers, faculty members, and other delegates for attending this Science Day program and gracing the event. Thank you one and all for being the part of this event. Yes, I declare this program is over, but I request all committee members and panelists to turn on their cameras to have a wonderful snap for a memory of this event. Please.
Thank you, Dr. Rahul. Thank you, Dr. Sushil, and
Thank you so much.
I think you can stop sharing. Have you stopped sharing?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I
very
share.
much.
Perfect.
Thank you all. Thank you.
So let me take a snap. Thank you, everybody.
Everyone.
So I declare that the function is over.
Yeah, Dr. Mandar, there was a question in the chat box. Is there any certificate for the participants?
So we will send e-certificates to all participants in due course of time.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Take care.
Thank you.